All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're going to explore a world of impossible spaces. I'm talking about places where buildings have grammar, where maps literally create the worlds they're supposed to describe, and where reality, well, it's something you don't just see, you actually help create it.
So our journey kicks off with a character who feels like he's walked straight out of a Borges story. He's a cartographer, and he's been hired for a job that on paper completely defies logic. His mission? To create a definitive floor plan for a library that just refuses to sit still and be defined.
And this is the central question that really unlocks the bizarre logic of this whole place. It forces us to think about architecture in a new way, Not just as a box to put stuff in, but as a living, breathing, maybe even evolving argument.
So let's step inside. We're entering the Biblioteca Provinciale. This is a library that has grown so aggressively it takes up 7 city blocks and, get this, supposedly a pocket dimension. It's got staircases that go up in both directions at the same time and hallways that literally branch off into lines of poetry. It feels less like a building and more like a story that figured out how to hold people.
Okay, so how do you even begin to map an idea like this? Well, we follow our cartographer. He shows up with all his classic tools, a tape measure, pure logic, the scientific method. He is absolutely convinced he can force some kind of order onto this narrative chaos.
His job seems crystal clear, right? Just draw a map. But the thing he's trying to map is anything but clear. The library's corridors are constantly shifting. Its rooms just appear and disappear, and the whole geography of the place seems to be reacting to his very presence.
And then he gets this piece of advice that just completely flips the whole project on its head. Someone tells him, hey, you're not a geographer mapping space. You're a grammarian diagramming a sentence. And the crazy part is, it's a sentence that's still being spoken.
And then, this is where it gets really weird. He stumbles into the library's core logic, recursion. So first, he finds a biography section where every single book is about him. Then, he reads a passage that's describing him, right at that moment, reading that very passage. And to top it all off, he finds a completed version of his own map, which shows a little figure of him finding it. He's stuck in an absolutely impossible logic loop.
And this reveals the crucial point. His attempt to just objectively measure and map the place is doomed to fail, because here, observation is an act of creation. The second he measures a corridor, he brings it into existence. By drawing a room on his map, he's authoring it. That line between being an observer and a creator, it's completely gone.
Okay, so this brings us to the other people in the library. They show us what happens when you just stop trying to control this weird system and just let yourself be a part of it. See, they're not trying to map the library. They're actually living inside its logic. For example, we meet a scholar who's hunting for this legendary book, the Codex Parallaxis. But what she finds out is that it's not some static, unchanging object. No, it's a participatory text. The version of the book you find depends entirely on your own point of view, the questions you're asking, and your own unique way of paying attention.
This whole idea creates this perfect feedback loop. Imagine a reader finds her own biography, but the act of reading about herself actually changes who she is. Well, now the book is inaccurate, right? So it has to be rewritten, which starts the entire cycle all over again. Her identity and the book are just locked in this constant creative dance.
And suddenly, the library's real purpose becomes clear. This place isn't some dusty old archive of objects. It's a living, breathing collection of experiences and perspectives. The most valuable things here aren't the books on the shelves, but all the unique ways that each person reads them.
This whole theme of perspective, it really forces you to look not just at what's there, but what isn't. And that brings us to one of the library's most powerful building blocks, the concept of absence. Here, emptiness isn't just a lack of something, it's a structural element all on its own.
So when an architect gets hired to fix all the library's inconsistencies, he has this breakthrough. He realizes that those paradoxes are the very thing holding it all together. So instead of adding more structure, he does the opposite. He creates a structured void, a zero room, a space of perfect foundational nothingness that gives meaning to all the impossible things happening around it.
Now, this idea of structured nothingness gets taken to its absolute extreme in our second story. We follow an inspector who's sent to 1847 Horace Street, which is a building that doesn't just have a void in it. The entire building is a void. It exists only in negative space.
I mean, this building isn't just empty. It's built out of a tangible, coherent nothingness. Its tenants live in the spaces between apartments. Its pipes work based on nostalgia, and its whole foundation isn't concrete but the abstract idea of mutual debt. It's wild!
This quote from the library's architect just nails the logic of both of these places perfectly. All their defining paradoxes, their impossibilities, their constant instability, those aren't flaws that need to be fixed. They are the core features that actually allow them to exist in the first place.
So what's the big takeaway from all these stories of impossible buildings? Well, it's like a rule book for a universe that runs on a completely different kind of logic, one where the normal relationship between cause and effect, or observer and observed, is totally flipped on its head.
The core principles of this universe are all about participation. Here, to measure something is to actually create it. To read a book is to help write it. Emptiness is what defines what's full. And getting lost, that's not a failure. It's the only real way to figure out where you are.
And this last quote just beautifully sums up the entire journey. In a world like this, a perfect, objective, bird's-eye view map is useless. Real understanding doesn't come from that. It comes from the messy, personal experience of navigating all that uncertainty and finding your own way through it.
Ultimately, the text leaves us with this question, and it's a question that turns right back on us, the readers. As we sit here trying to make sense of these stories, are we just discovering their meaning? Or are we, just like the cartographer, actually authoring it ourselves? That line, it seems, is never as clear as we think it is.